We are going analog today, and Gidget just left. Damn. So before I get into this, this is all my opinion. If Mario 64 still holds up as one of your favorite games of all time, then that is your opinion. Because I understand still liking this game. It is very solid, it has a lot of great moments in it, and there is still a lot that I do like about it. But obviously I do have a lot of issues with it. In the past couple years when I've been replaying it, I've kind of become disillusioned with it, especially 100%ing it for the first time a couple of years ago. That kind of showed me a lot of the flaws in the game. So hopefully you guys enjoy me just kind of going into some of my issues with this game. First, I kind of want to talk about what I love about the game, because there is quite a bit that I love. For instance, the art style. The art style is kind of unique for Nintendo. They haven't really done much like it since this game came out. It has this very surreal, dream-esque feel to it. The really odd juxtaposition of some of the textures especially proves this. Like, for instance, Dory is just not cartoonish at all. She looks almost realistic. And you have the other enemies in that level that are like bright orange spiders. And it just juxtaposes so much. And the blurry fidelity of all the graphics, it makes it feel like a dream world. And I love that so much. I hope that if they remake Mario 64, if they ever do, which I highly doubt at this rate, I hope that they kind of lean into that art style, because I think that's what makes the game so enjoyable for me at this point. I love seeing that. Next, I mean, the music's iconic. The water levels, Bob on Battlefield, the slider music, the staff roll, the file select music, all of it is just classic. And I cannot fault it because the composition is incredible. Koji Kondo did a great job, but not only composition, the actual sounds are really good too. Which these are all like sampled instruments that were done through the N64, and all these songs are like, I'm pretty sure all the songs are arranged in MIDI basically. So, keeping that in mind, the soundtrack is pretty damn good. You can't just get an orchestral composition on the N64. That's almost impossible size-wise. The first floor levels are really well designed. I think even something like Jolly Roger Bay, where it does have some flaws, but I think overall the level design works super well. I think Cool Cool Mountain's the best level in the game. I think it has a super fun variety of stars, from some slight platforming, to some puzzle solving, to some different types of action. I love Cool Cool Mountain so much. I love that the red coin star really makes you explore the map from top to bottom, because a lot of red coin stars kind of just focus in one area of the map. But those early red coin stars where they're just strewn about the map, I really love that, and I think that kind of goes into why I love these early levels. They do such a good job at motivating you to explore. For instance, those red coin stars, or Bob on Battlefield, the first objective of Bob on Battlefield being on the top of the mountain where, you know, naturally players would want to climb the tallest peak first. That first objective being there kind of almost rewards you for thinking intuitively. And I love that a ton. I think also Wong's Fortress is fantastic. I think it's one of the smallest main levels in the game, I'm pretty sure. But they just pack so much into it. Like, almost every square inch of that level is used. It's impressive. And now it's kind of time to talk about where my issues lie. And my first one is that sometimes the level design does not line up with how the mechanics of the game work. So I will use a level as an example. Here we have Tiny Huge Island, the red coin star. So first off, getting to the star, I'm going to be talking about this level later because this level infuriated me on this playthrough. But getting to this star, so you get to this thin platform where you have to use analog controls, which, fine. You know, take advantage of your new control schemes, but if you fall, then you have to travel a great amount where it's literally easier to kill yourself than to just try again. And then once you get in there, the platforming is pretty tight, but there is this one specific platform where it's kind of too small to get a good run up to do a double jump inherently. But then it's also like a little bit awkward to do a side flip because you don't know when you're going to hit your full running speed because the platform is that tight. And it's kind of awkward to do a wall kick because you'd have to do it like at a 45-degree angle. And it's just awkward to just kind of go right up to the edge and then backflip. So it kind of sucks trying to do that. And that particular star really frustrated me. That took me a little while to do.
Here we go!
And I'll be talking about that star more because there are a lot more issues I have with Tiny Huge Island as a whole that don't particularly apply to this point. I think another level that suffers from this is Rainbow Ride. I think specifically there's a section where there are these 3 blocks blocking this section where you have to jump to get it, but the blocks are arranged in a way where it is so easy to hit it because of the height of your jump, and then you just bonk and then you have to restart that carpet section. It's frustrating. And now I think it's time to talk about the meat of my issues with Mario 64 in 2024. The level design. You know, the thing I praised earlier. Yeah, the later levels, the further you get into the game, the level design only gets worse and worse. So let's start at the basement. So first off, we have Big Boo's Haunt, which I frankly don't have an issue with this level. This is genuinely a fantastic level. It does a great job at being a horror stage in a Mario game. It does a great job at that. It creates this genuinely creepy atmosphere. It uses these Resident Evil style fixed cameras. It's a really fun stage. Like, really fun. Next up, we have Shifting Sandland, which, again, I honestly, frankly, don't have many issues with it. I think the tock box section is a little bit frustrating. I think the vulture is a kind of dumb mechanic, but it's not the most annoying thing ever. Inside the pyramid is actually pretty fun. I like that boss fight quite a bit. I think it's really fun. I think it's a really fun stage overall. Next up, we have Lethal Lava Land, which, again, I don't have many issues with, but I think generally some of the platforming is very frustrating, especially in the volcano, where visibility can be a little bit reduced. And then we have Hazy Maze Cave, which I think out of the main basement levels is the worst, but that doesn't really say much. I still really like this level. I just think the design of it is very weird. It doesn't feel natural. It feels like a collection of rooms rather than a place, and I would say up until this point, I have not felt the need to say that. It feels like you open up a door and it's, oh yeah, it leads to the elevator to the oasis with the fish in it. Oh yeah, you know, you open up this door and it leads to the actual Hazy Maze Cave where like 3 stars live. It feels very nonsensical. It doesn't feel, the progression of this level just does not feel natural to me. It feels so thrown together. I think that's my main issue with Hazy Maze Cave. And the final basement level, which I don't really count with the main basement levels, is Dire Dire Docks, one of the worst stages in the game. It's just bad. I don't even think I played this past getting the Bowser star when I did my playthrough for footage. The red coin star is infuriating. The use of the metal and vanish cap at the same time is frankly pretty creative. I think just in general how many stars take place in the water itself is kind of frustrating. Oh my God. It's just a very dumb level to play, and I don't like it. And that is a very common consensus. Jolly Roger Bay felt so balanced with its water to land, where there's plenty of land to rest on, but there's still a lot of water to swim in, but Dire Dire Docks feels like way too much water. And yeah, it's a water level, but you kind of need to hit a balance because the swimming mechanics in Mario 64 aren't the best. And I think Jolly Roger Bay worked within that a lot better than Dire Docks. And now, are you ready to move to the second floor? First up we have Snowman's Land, and frankly, Snowman's Land is just kind of unmemorable. It doesn't really feel like it does much more than Cool Mountain does, except more boring. I'd say the most iconic star for me is using the Koopa shell to get the red coins and entering the igloo. I think using the Vanish Cap to go through ice is very clever. I thought that was a really fun idea. But all in all, this level just feels kind of meh at best. Next up, we have Tall Mountain. Tall Mountain, I have a lot more issues with, but they're more personal issues. I think some of the platforming sections are dumb. I think the log roller is unnecessary where it is. I think Chuckias are just a bad enemy. I think the monkey that takes your hat is a dumb and unneeded mechanic. And the monkey that gives you the star is actually pretty cool. I like that idea. Next up we have Wet Dry World. Wet Dry World I honestly feel the most conflicted about. There are oddly a lot of things I love about it, and it's not because it's a fantastic level. Wet Dry World is weird. It's got that weird skybox, it's got that little town. It's just, it feels like a dev level, and I love it. I love it. It feels like a test stage. It's just so nonsensical, but it feels more charming than Hazy Maze Cave, which is a really weird thing to say. And you are free to disagree with me. But I love the weirdness of Wet Dry World. And the final stage on the second floor is Tiny Huge Island. If I could describe this level in 3 words, I would call it a half-baked gimmick. It's a really interesting idea, and it's a really cool callback to Super Mario Bros. 3. However, you never want to enter the island huge. And I think that is a massive disadvantage of this level. They did not balance it well. The way I play the level, and I assume most people play the level, is you enter the world tiny so you can get to where you need to go and then enter huge at the closest your objective is. I do not think anybody starts this level in the huge section because it is just infinitely more frustrating to play the level in the huge mode. And even then, playing the level in the tiny mode is frustrating because it's so easy to just think you can jump higher and then you can't, and then you slide off the whole level because there's about 3 square meters of this entire stage. It's just annoying. And I think a lot of the objectives are bad too. For instance, that red coin star, you need to enter the level tiny, and then platform, and then get up the mountain, and then go to this pipe, and then enter it, and then scale the mountain even further, and avoid this Chuckia, and I hate Chuckias so much. They are punishing nothing. There is like nothing they are punishing. It just throws you off the level for no reason. You can't like really kill them besides throwing them off. I'm pretty sure they respawn. Don't quote me on that though. It just feels like such an unnecessary enemy, and it's caused so much frustration for me where it hasn't needed to be. And then after you get past the Chuckia, then you climb up here, and then you jump down onto this hill, which is very easy to fall off, by the way. And then you have to cross this bridge, which is very easy to fall off, and then you're in the red coin star. I think the other stars on this stage aren't as poorly designed, but this star just kind of shows my issues with the level and its mechanics. I just think that they made a bad stage that could have been a pretty decent endgame stage, but I think they realized that they have too many just hill-based maps, or too many vertical-based maps, so they needed to find some way to make it different, but they didn't really succeed. And now, we're on to the third floor. Tick-Tock Clock. Honestly, Tick-Tock Clock isn't as horrible as I remembered. I remembered it being like the worst stage in the game. However, it's manageable. You know, it is frustrating if you fall off, and the clock mechanic is kind of dumb, and I have the exact same issue with it that I have with Tiny Huge Island, and it's that there is nearly no reason to not start at 12 o'clock and having easier platforming. There are like 2 stars where you need to start at other times. But I think Wet Dry World actually has a better implementation of this mechanic. Because it changes the water level, but the water level is actually needed to be changed for multiple stars. So you actually have to strategize and change the water level before you enter the level. And it's not just a useless mechanic. Oh, and it actually lets you easily change this instead of having to find specific pipes or not be able to change it at all. So you did this mechanic good before and then messed it up later. How do you do that? Anyways, TikTok Clock is actually pretty fun most of the time, I'm not even gonna lie. And now, we are on to the final regular stage. Rainbow Riot. I hate Rainbow Riot. This is one of the worst levels in a video game I have ever played. So, let me go over my issues with this level. The magic carpets are terrible. There are multi-minute waits for stars. And not only that, there are multiple objectives where there are obstacles on the carpet that are actually difficult to avoid and like actually pretty obtuse. So it's a death sentence. And then you have to restart the star and then go back and wait 3 more minutes before you get back to that section. It's terribly designed. I think the maze is badly designed. I think platforming it is terrible. I think that obstacle course section is cool, but ultimately flops. But I think that the execution isn't nearly as bad as other aspects of this level. I think the cannon star is just unnecessary. I don't think that needs to be there. I think you could have easily made a more interesting platforming section, or I think made even like a village section similar to Wet Dry World that fleshed out this map more and made it feel more like an actual place than just floating objects. Because Rainbow Ride is worse than Wet Dry World in that instance, because it's literally just floating objects in the sky with a ship and a massive house. That's it. It's just such a poorly thought out stage, so poorly executed, and it's just frustrating to play overall. I do not understand why Nintendo put this in a finished game. And those are the levels. Overall, there are some pretty solid levels in the first half, and there are some really good ideas and good stars in the second half of the game. But overall, it just feels like there is such a stark difference between the first half and second half of this game. It is crazy to me that that's the case, because the first half of the game feels so well designed and thought out, and the second half just feels so needlessly difficult in a way that is just frustrating. So yeah, thank you for watching. This was a super fun video to make, and I'm glad I was able to get it out, and oh my god, I forgot to complain about the camera!